Hi, I'm Laura. Thank you for joining me. I'm not keeping you long today. I'm cold. I'm so cold. So, quick one from me. Today, I wanted to speak about funerals briefly. I've had the privilege of conducting funerals for the loved ones of people who have passed away. And the funeral, it provides so much closure and it helps with the process of grief. It's for those who knew the person, and it helps in the long run. It really does to have a funeral. I've been to funerals big and small. And the reason why I became a funeral celebrant is because I didn't like attending funerals of people that I had known all my life and having the services conducted by people who didn't know them. I wanted to preside over funerals of people that I knew and people that I had formed relationships with, and people who had personalities that I could reflect and honour at that time. I recently casted my mind back to the first funeral that I had spoken at, and at first I thought that it was my aunt's funeral because I had written her a poem, and I'd been quite active in that. But it wasn't. It was my dad's funeral. It was a really emotional time, and I just ended up standing up and sauntering over to the podium to speak my truth. In that time, I acknowledged my mother, my brother, and my sisters. And it's not really the done thing, is it? To decide mid-funeral that you are going to get up and say something. Looking back now, actually, I suppose it would have been like drama. Oh my gosh, and Laura stood up and anyway, I've come across so many people in life who are bound by unspoken rules. These are unspoken rules. Who says that you can't get up in the middle of a funeral? Okay, it might not be the nicest thing to do, especially if you don't have anything nice to say. Just so happens that I did. But we've come to believe that there are so many, traditions and rituals around funerals that can't be broken. And maybe some of us have come to see funerals as a sacred place that has to follow a certain pattern. That may have been the case at one time, but we are now moving into the new age of Aquarius, and I think we're going to find that things are going to be very different from now on. So a lot of the perceived traditions that follow a loved one, they can actually be modernized now and adapted to fit with our feelings and our desires and our wants. We are being given an opportunity at the moment to express ourselves, and that's not really been in keeping traditionally with the British way. It's been stiff upper lip and let's keep going, let's march on. But people are really feeling at the moment, and people really do need a space to release and for closure. One way to relieve some of the stress that occurs when a loved one passes away is to write your wishes down before you die. Better still, write them before you even have a diagnosis, because at that time you're in your right mind, and you can sit and think about what it is that you would really like without the stress of it being an impending situation, you can think about the people that you're leaving behind and what experience you would like them to have at that time, and how as well you might want them to celebrate your life and you, the person that you were, the gift that you gave to humanity. Another way to make your plans known is to speak to funeral arrangers, speak to funeral celebrants, speak to the funeral directors, and let them know exactly what you want for yourself or for your loved one. And, you know, doing it that way, it relieves a lot of pressure and tension. Nobody's under any illusions, and there's no guesswork involved as well. Okay, it's not a case of, I wonder what she would have wanted afterwards. Do you think he would have been happy with that? When my dad died, we had an open casket at the church. He had an open casket, and I peered into his casket, and he was there in a dicky bow tie. I was aghast, to say the least. That was not my dad. He was dead in one of those, and yet there he was. When you know your loved one, we're talking about people that you've lived with probably all of your life, people that you've known, people that you love. When you know your loved one, you will only make decisions that are coming from the heart, with the highest good and the deepest intentions, you know. When you know the person, you know, there's another thing that I wanted to speak to you about is funeral poverty. It occurs when the cost of the funeral exceeds the budget, and there are times when funerals are called for and they are wholly unexpected, a shock. And funerals are set to rise because death is occurring, and death doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what age or colour or sex you are. It's not something, though, that we're planning for adequately enough, and it should be. It really should be. There was an article in The Guardian a couple of days ago, and they were saying that the average cost now for a send-off is around £4,184. I'll just repeat that. Take a deep breath. £4,184. And that figure has risen over 128% since 2004. 2004 was the year that my dad passed away. And I would have been hard pressed to find £4,184. Support from the government is limited, and you have to jump through hoops as well to be able to qualify. On average, they kind of give under £1,500. So you've still got a couple of thousand to be looking at. Apparently 2 years ago, in 2019, the average cost of a funeral was £3,785. So I think a really good question is, what has happened between 2019 and 2021 to justify the jump to £4,184? Money is often made by bumping up the cost of the coffin, the casket. There are also added extras like printing the order of service. Burials are more expensive than cremations. And to be honest, there are some cultures who believe in burial over cremation. And there are some people, some cultures that are expected to have bigger send-offs. And so when I say bigger, when I say expected, expected to have bigger services, I mean that they have traditionally held big funerals. So dominant funeral directors will sort of see them come in, and they will mournfully upsell extra products that aren't really necessary. And whilst I've enjoyed a great many of those bigger funerals in my time, can't lie, but I've also seen for myself how the grief of loss is further impacted by the funeral bill once everybody else has gone home. You know, we need to talk about this because we're living at a time where the subject of death is touching everyone. And the sooner we get our ideas and our orders and our ideas, the sooner we get our affairs in order with ideas of what we want to experience at that time. And we do have the ability and we do have the choice. We can make decisions about what happens around that time. The sooner we do that, the sooner we give ourselves peace of mind. Yeah, we give ourselves peace of mind so that when that time comes, we can just get on with the process, get on with making that transition. It's not something that's playing in the background of our mind. You know, where are our children going to get the money from? Or how is this going to be? You know, I know that it's a deep subject. Okay. And I get it. Nobody wants to be talking about their death. Nobody wants to be thinking about that time, especially during this pandemic. And especially if everybody in your family is in good health. But conversations about dying and death and bereavement with members of your family or close loved ones, close friends, they're really important because there are often so many unanswered questions when someone dies, even under the most peaceful of circumstances. So talk. It's good for you. It's a stress reliever and it's necessary. The world that we're living in is changing right before our eyes. Let's at least attempt to be ahead of the change so that we're not caught out. I mean, there's going to be some shocking changes coming up. I can't even predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody can. But surely if we can be planning for our funerals and the moments that lead up to our transition, the better. The whole subject of death is so big and so overwhelming from so many different angles, and it can completely change your life. If you lose a loved one to death, then it has a knock-on effect in your social environment, in your relationships with your friends and other family members. Your home life can be altered. It can trigger loneliness. And at times you might even have to find new accommodation. Where there may have been 2 wages coming in, there may now just be 1. You know, that's socially, economically, mentally, and psychologically. The thought of losing a lost one, there are just emotions that you may be bottling up, unable to let go. There are so many different aspects that are affected by death, dying, and bereavement. If we can just be thinking, planning, getting something down on writing, even a scrap of paper, our wishes at that time, it can reduce a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering. Just talk to your loved ones about this, because the thought of suffering that could have been planned for in advance is the one thing that you don't want to be racked with later down the road. Even saving, I don't know, a £5 a week can go a long way towards that time, because it's so far in the future. You've got years ahead of you. Okay, years, donkeys years. £5 a week. Okay, planning never hurt anybody, never. The plans might not come to fruition, they might not ever be necessary, who knows. But just give it some thoughts and have those conversations with your friends, with your family members, and those that you love. I am cold, so I'm going to end it there. But I just wanted to say, I just wanted to let you know that you have more control than you may think you do. You don't have to be subjected to the hospital or the hospice. You don't have to have the funeral that was traditionally thought of as the norm. You can have it your way. Times are changing. And the sooner we start planning, the better. Okay, I'm out. Just a short one. Take care. Be safe. Be good. Be happy. Be free. And be alive. Okay? Until next week. Peace.